Here we are again, a new year and a new superhero film destined to fail. In 2022, we had Morbius. In 2023, we had The Marvels. And in 2024, we have Madam Web. Who or what is Madam Web, you may ask? Well, I don't really know. We're at the point in this decades-long line of superhero movies where the only remaining characters to introduce are those that not even a comic book guy from The Simpsons knows.
Oh, no! What are you doing? Good, fair, poor! Oh.
What I do know though is that Madam Web, due for release on Wednesday the 14th of Feb, is preordained to fail financially. Making predictions for box office success can be a tricky business. Barbie, for example, was forecast a domestic opening weekend of 45 million, but actually went on to make 160 million in its opening weekend. Ant-Man Quantumania was forecast to make almost 300 million worldwide in its opening weekend, but it only made around half of that. So normally it's worth taking box office predictions with a grain of salt. Madam Web, however, I believe is absolutely certain to fail at the box office. The movie website Box Office Pro have forecast Madam Web to have an opening weekend of 25 to 35 million. Now that is a really, really poor opening weekend. To put this into perspective, Morbius had an opening weekend of 39 million, and it went on to make 162 million in total. The Marvels, which shares a few similarities with Madam Web, is that it only came out a number of months ago, so it's part of the death spiral of the superhero genre, and its lead ensemble cast are all women. The Marvels had an opening weekend of 46 million domestically, and went on to make a total of 199 million at the box office. Morbius and The Marvels are seen as meme-level failures, in terms of their quality as movies and their box office returns. And Madam Web is predicted to make much less than both in its opening weekend.
Who are you? What is going on? I can see the future.
The Marvels' domestic opening weekend makes up 23% of its total box office, and Morbius' opening weekend makes up 24% of its total box office receipts. So if we are being kind and believe that Madam Web will reach a higher end of its forecasted opening weekend at 35 million, then a rough estimate will be that the film makes around $145 million during its entire release run. If we take the lower estimate, which even still, I think there's a chance Madam Web won't even reach this 25 million opening weekend, then its total box office would be just below $105 million. Now for a movie that has a production budget of a reported 80 million, normally the simple sum to find a movie's break-even point is to double the production budget to account for marketing and distribution, which includes a cut of the ticket that the cinema gets. This would leave Madam Web with a box office target of $160 million to begin making a profit. So based off the box office predictions, financially Madam Web, unless a miracle occurs, will lose tens of millions of dollars.
You don't think this is weird, how we're all connected?
It's honestly like the least weird thing that's happened all day.
Madam Web's inevitable failure does raise some questions as to why the brain boxes at Sony Pictures believe that a movie starring a character the public have never heard of, coming out at least 3 years after the superhero genre has run its course, could do anything other than flop. There are many reasons why from its announcement in 2019, Madam Web was doomed to fail. Some of these reasons were obvious, and some, if we give Sony the benefit of doubt, were a little harder to foresee. One of those harder to predict was the extent of superhero fatigue. Madam Web began its early pre-production stage in 2019, the year in which Avengers Endgame became the second highest grossing movie of all time, and Spider-Man Far From Home, made by Sony in partnership with Marvel Studios, made $1.1 billion. So it's understandable that a female-led superhero movie linked with the Spider-Man IP seemed like a good idea at the time. However, since 2019, the MCU has released Black Widow, Eternals, Thor Love and Thunder, Ant-Man Quantumania, and The Marvels. Not to mention Disney Plus shows such as She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and Secret Invasions. All of which have been panned critically. And then if we look at the DCEU, we've had The Flash, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Blue Beetle and Black Adam. Since 2019, Sony have released Venom 2, which did okay box office wise but poor critically, and Morbius, which didn't do too well by any metric. Sony also released the animated film Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which did well financially and critically, but it's clearly separate from the Sony live-action Spider-Verse. On top of superhero fatigue, it will be fair to say that Spider-Man fatigue is also well at play now. With constant reboots, studio shenanigans, with Marvel and Sony fighting for creative control over the character, and no less than 10 Spider-Man films coming out since 2022.
Until one moment changed everything.
The Sony anti-hero Spider-Verse franchise, I suppose, has been confusing from its inception. With Venom sort of being part of the same universe as the MCU Spider-Man, Morbius, with the weirdest post-credit scene of all time, also making it part of the Tom Holland universe too. Then we've got the Spider-Verse animated films, which are part of the MCU, but in a meta, multiverse way. It's all just too confusing. Where does Madam Web fit in with this, puzzling web of franchise crossovers? Well, it's feasible that her psychic abilities have ties to the MCU multiverse.
A week ago, I spent my life racing against time.
With so much stacked up against it, Madam Web was in need of a brilliant trailer to capture the movie-going public's imagination. And in November 2023, we got possibly the weakest, most memeable trailer since I can remember. The low-budget look, the blandness of the lead, Dakota Johnson, and the incredible line, "Ezekiel Sims, he was in the Amazon with my mum when she was researching spiders right before she died."
Ezekiel Sims. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
The trailer obviously got ripped apart in the comment section, which is never a good sign. It even had The Guardian publish an article titled, "Madame Web, is the Spider-Man spin-off trailer deliberately terrible?" The sole purpose of a trailer is to build excitement for the movie, but instead what the trailer did is turn Madame Web into a laughingstock that evokes memories of Morbius and the jokes made at that film's expense. So to summarise, Madame Web looks set to be a complete disaster financially, and for Sony's live-action Spider-Verse, it looks like Madame Web will help to cement its reputation as a complete embarrassment. Now I'd like to know, how much do you predict Madame Web will make at the box office? Is there a chance it will be a good film, and are you going to watch it at the theatre, or just sit back and enjoy the inevitable bashing the movie will receive online? If you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing to the channel. I'll have my review of Madame Web on the channel upon the film's release. I release videos every week covering the best films and shows around, as well as the occasional video essay. If you really enjoyed this video, then the best way to support the channel and get involved with future videos is by becoming a member and joining Film Club. Thank you for watching, and see you again.